Time for a kind of transfer talk speculation with a twist. Shaka Hislop. We're going to go through some of the clubs in the Premier League, but I only want you to give me either one name or one position that they most need.
Ugh.
Start with Manchester City. They're not getting Bellingham. He's off to Real Madrid. So is it that position, or is there a player that could be gettable that they need? What do you reckon for City?
That's a tough one. Because we are talking about a club, as we record, that's won 2 trophies. That's in the Champions League final. So who's the one player that makes them better? I'm not so sure there's an answer for that, in all honesty. I'm going to say stick. Just keep going.
Okay.
Do with who you have, what you got.
Their biggest signing, their best signing, might be to give Gundogan a 2-year deal.
Oh, absolutely. Stick with. So when I say stick with whoever's on the roster right now.
Exactly.
Just stick with it. Don't take away. Don't add. Or I can't think of anybody to add off the top of my head.
Okay. Arsenal. Now, you look at the left back area, and Zinchenko's played there, missed the end of the season through injury. Kieran Tierney probably going to go away. Joao Cancelo has been linked with them. Obviously, Declan Rice in the middle of the park. But if it's one position or one player, is it a midfielder or is it a left
defensive
back?
Defensive midfielder for me.
Okay.
I think that's what Arsenal need most. There's Granit Xhaka, Thomas Partey. I think can be improved on both. Granit Xhaka moving on. I have to say I thought Thomas Partey would be a little bit more of a leader, so they need somebody who can sit in front of that back four and be a leader for Arsenal.
Liverpool. Looks like Alexis McAllister could be the piece of the jigsaw that will kick things off. And if it is to be him, do they need more? Or is that just a good start if they get him?
I think they need more. And again, I'll add in midfield as probably the greatest need. I just feel that for as good as Liverpool's midfield has been, it's time for freshening up. You've added McAllister. I think that's just one of a needed few improvements that Liverpool need. I'm thinking another midfielder alongside McAllister as the next most urgent need.
And I'm thinking for Manchester United, something, somewhere, someone in the spine of the team. So is it a striker? Is it a goalkeeper, or is it a midfielder, or maybe even a centre-back that's the most pressing for them? And if you got a name for me, then even better.
Most pressing, striker.
Okay.
There's a need for all those that you just mentioned, but most pressing for me, striker. I think what that allows is Rashford to play in what I think is his best, and I'll assume is his preferred position, coming from the wide areas. And if Rashford continues playing as he is, you all of a sudden have got two for the price of one in allowing Rashford to as I say, play in what I think has been his most effective role for Manchester United. But that being said, that's not the end of your shopping list at all.
No,
but you've only allowed to open your like a typical Scotsman, only open up your purse enough for me to buy 100 million player.
I'm not telling you which currency. It certainly isn't euros or pounds or dollars. By the way, just off on a little bit of a related tangent. If it was a case of we'll give you what they're giving you, we'll give you everything that they're giving you, so it's a choice for Harry Kane between Real Madrid and Man United, who does he go with?
If it were me, I go Real Madrid.
It's not you, though.
No, it's not. And that's the thing. For all the, again, talk about Premier League goal scoring records, and truth be told, nobody's heard from Harry Kane on this. He's not the one who said, I want to stay here and break Premier League goal scoring records, at least not as far as I'm aware. That's everybody else has kind of done that speculation for him. But if the choice is going to Real Madrid or staying in Manchester United and breaking the Premier League goal scoring record, I choose Real Madrid. That's me. Others may think that Harry is doing differently. But as I said, as far as I'm aware, Harry's not the one who said that.
Well, he can always come back if he does leave the Premier League, and maybe in his mid-30s still have a chance of eclipsing that record. To your former club, Newcastle United, I get the feeling they're going to spend big on one marquee signing this transfer window.
I don't.
No?
I don't. I've been seeing this all along. When I went to Newcastle just over 12 months ago, back end of...
To be awarded the freedom of the city, I believe.
I went to Newcastle, and as it happens, a few people that were there in the backroom staff were still there. So it was good to catch up with them. Steve Harper, who was my teammate, is now the director of the Newcastle Academy. So it's good to catch up with him. But the general feeling at the club is Newcastle aren't going to go into the market for a big marquee signing that certainly the tabloids had been speculating on. It was that they were going to continue adding sensibly as they had done all along. The signing of Alexander Isak is a perfect example. Not the big name signing that many thought Newcastle would be going after. Last summer they were talking about Neymar and all, Mbappe. Anyway, not that big name signing, but where was needed, and what definitely improves the squad without making the squad all about them or taking away from the camaraderie within that dressing room. So while there'll be speculation, I am going to say no until that Kylian Mbappe or Neymar or whoever it may be arrives. I don't think it happens. I don't see it happening.
Is there a position that they need to strengthen? Because the right-hand side of attack was what we were talking about last summer, but Miggy Almiron came in and had a really good season. Dan Burns, another one, playing at left fullback, in that, he did well, but if someone like Cancelo or others are out there, that would be an upgrade. So I think this is interesting for Newcastle. I get what you're saying, but if the right player becomes available who won't upset the apple cart, they've got the money to do so. Now,
yeah. If I'm adding one player, it's on that right hand side. And Almiron has been absolutely outstanding. I don't change the defense at all. We are talking about the joint meanest defense in the Premier League. Sure. I don't think there's any need to address that. I get your point. But if I am changing things, I'm doing one of two things. I'll tell you who I think is first on my shopping list, if I can only get one. An out-and-out striker. And listen, I like Callum Wilson, but he suffered injuries and as a result was a little bit inconsistent as the leading attacker. And I think one of the strengths of having Alexander Isak on your team is Isak can play either as a one, as an out-and-out striker himself, as part of a two, or he can play in a wide area in a front three. I think Isak is far more versatile than I think many people may recognize. Let me not say that gets credit for that. Many people may recognize. Yeah. So I would buy that out-and-out striker, and I think that gives me a lot of option in how I set up, I set up offensively going forward. So that even comes before I start looking at strengthening on the right-hand side of my attack.
Yeah, because good strikers are cheap. 2 more teams to go.
Yeah.
Spurs.
Now, if it was me, if left with me, go to Newcastle, Hurricane.
I don't want you left in charge of my finances, please. You've just spent 100 million of them.
All right. I can dream.
If you're getting nothing from me, you're getting absolutely hee-haw from Stevie Nicol, but that's another story. 2 teams to go. Yeah. I'm intrigued to see how Ange Postecoglou, who's done great at Celtic. He's a super manager. And I hope he does well, because if he doesn't do well, then the book can be stuck into Scottish football. Oh, yeah, it's just a 2-team league, maybe even a 1-team league. If he does well down there, where he's done everywhere he's gone, then I think that'll be a good thing for Postecoglou, for Australian football, and for Scottish football as well. But if he loses Kane, is the striker the main priority, or which position is, given that the defence wasn't great last season and they've got a goalkeeper that's now leaving? So there's a lot of things he needs to do. What's the most pressing for Ange?
Yeah. Who's the other club to go?
Chelsea.
Yeah, see? Kind of figured so, you know. Right now, I think, I think my approach for both those clubs is, I know you're asking me for one player, but get a big red Sharpie and just circle the entire field. Just draw a big circle around it. I say, yep, there. That's what you need most.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, I think there's a great. I think I do that with Spurs more than I do that with Chelsea. I think Chelsea desperately need a striker, and because so much they have talent in that dressing room, Chelsea Football Club.
Got a lot of players as well.
It falls, It falls down because they don't have a striker, and then everybody's trying to figure out the role to make up for that, and it hasn't allowed those very talented players to be, let's be frank here, at all good in many instances. So I think a striker addresses Chelsea's immediate need. For Spurs, let me put it this way. If Spurs keep Harry Kane, I circle the entire field and just kind of make a little loop around Harry Kane. Everybody else is available. Every other position, bar centre forward. I'll say Heung-min Son as well, just because I like Son.
Okay.
Not that he was anywhere near as good as we expected him to be last season. Let's be honest, he was a little bit disappointing last season, but I like Son.
Yeah.
I put that down to one of those seasons. I'm keeping him. So now we're in the market for 9 players. I can't pick one out of that. I can't pick one position out of that 9.
Well, the other thing is, they've got like 6 centre-backs, and Ange Postecoglou's preference is a 4-3-3, that the 2 fullbacks kind of push forward into midfield, take turns and do that. So this is the issue with chopping and changing managers. One guy comes in, Conte likes a back 3, and you get someone that prefers a back 4, so you've got surplus of centre-backs. You've got left-backs that are better at left wing-back and then have to go back to left-back. He's got some job on his hands, hasn't he?
It kind of sounds like you want to borrow my big red Sharpie, Mark. That's what I got. That's what I got.
Be like Zorro.
Yeah.
So many. But that's the thing. It's like Chelsea, Shaka. You've got loads of players. They've got too many players. Spurs not as many. But at Chelsea, I mean, you've got to get rid before you can bring in.
Yeah.
I think the bottom line is there's a lot of work for several of the teams that we've mentioned. I think Manchester City right now is the team that's probably sitting pretty. But work to be done in the transfer market for.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.